So there's an old priest taking confession, and people are coming in. He's like giving the normal, say this, say these, our fathers, or, the rosary, whatever bad Catholics have to say when they confess sins. And a woman came in, and she sat down, and she's like, Father, blah, 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 I gave a blowjob this week. And he's like, I'm going to have to think about this. Confused. He doesn't know what that is. So he's like, I'm going to have to go to my sanctuary and think about this. So he leaves, like, the confession, box, and he goes out back, and he sees, one of the nuns. He's like, Sister Catherine, what's a blowjob? And she says, $20, same as in town.
You know what? I don't think that really happened.
You don't?
No, I think you made it all up.
No, true story.
Oh, okay.
Hello, it's Jacques and
Joe,
and welcome to Carnival Personnel.
Hi.
Big week, but first of all, we'd be remiss if we didn't take a second to thank our great friend Biff for stopping by.
Your great friend Biff.
I would say at this point is our great friend.
All right,
Biff.
fine.
A lot of great feedback, a lot of fun, and it's just great to be able to have a legitimate, excuse to throw out my racist bars.
There really aren't any excuses. That's what you haven't learned.
But it was informative. It was fun. The podcast and then the sideshow this past week was great.
Did you like the intro?
I did very much like
to the sideshow of Japan.
I very much did. I'm like, oh man, he's not playing Turning Japanese.
And the ending song, I don't know if you know what that is.
I don't.
There was an episode of South Park called Fun with Weapons, and it was kind of a benchmark episode. The boys are way into anime, and they're playing with throwing stars and nunchucks, and they're getting into this stuff. And so when they're pretending to play with these real weapons, all of a sudden it turns into like an anime version of South Park. And then there's a fight sequence, and then all of a sudden you hear that Let's Fighting Love song play, Let's Fighting Love. And that's why I incorporated it in the end of the Japan episode, because I too am a racist, apparently. I couldn't find any other appropriate Japanese songs to play.
Okay, I Turning Japanese was just perfect for it, but I wrote it down. I was voted down. Hey, so funny. Last week, when Biff was over and we were watching the Patriots, absolutely, squash the Tennessee Titans. Simultaneously, I was at Best Buy an hour away in Framingham, Mass, buying something that cost $3,205.
Wow. Wait, do you even have $3,205? And
available on my Best Buy card. I did.
And how are you in two places at once? Is this another joke that you're trying to tell?
No, this is like, I haven't talked to you since this happened. So it was like Tuesday or Wednesday, sitting there on the to-do list. It's like, pay all the bills and stuff like that. Because the downside of owning a house now, 4 months ago, I didn't have a Lowe's, a Home Depot, a Best Buy, a Target card. I did have a GameStop card. Just to be clear, I've had that for quite some time. And I'm like, okay.
You still have a Child World card, too, which
don't
is a little
judge me.
peculiar.
But I did. It's like, so I go online. I'm like, well, that balance seems crazy high. And then I looked and I'm like, oh, unbeknownst to me or anybody associated with my family, somehow somebody was able.
You were the victim of an identity theft.
I was. Well, I don't know if I lost my card somewhere and somebody used it. So
wait, you mean the Fort Knox, that is the rubber band that keeps all of your credit cards together, wasn't enough?
It was somehow somebody cracked the code. Somebody guessed that the password to my wallet was 1, 2, 3, 4, right. Enter.
Somebody stole my rubber band. Oh no!
And their hair ties. If we're going to, play the semantic game. So that was, and then here's the worst part about it. Oh, we're really sorry. It takes 7 days to do the investigation. It will come off your card then, and okay. Well, what happens to these sons of bitches? Nothing. And they're like, well, you have to report with your local police. So I had to call police. Police came, took a statement, and they were basically like, yeah, well, nothing they're really going to do. Like Best Buy will write it off to insurance. And I'm like, that's $3,200 is a lot. Can't
Security cam footage.
security cam. I mean, they bought either a lot of things or a big item that they probably had to pull the car around to put in. I'm quite sure you could get. No, it's not worth their time to like run the play because somebody might have smoked weed somewhere that day, or so I don't know,
And I'm proud to be an American. Oh, speaking of which, happy anniversary, Jacques.
Happy anniversary, Joe. Where's the loaded gun?
I don't. You think I'm telling you?
Yeah, no.
And I'm not telling you where the bullet is either. Wait,
but how can I win? So, anniversary of what, Joe?
Oh, just an anniversary of being under the magistrate of, is that a word? I don't know. I'm asking you. Of the greatest president in the United States to some.
The healthiest president of the United States
and
to some.
Almost the tallest.
Yeah, so there's a lot of anyways,
Donald Trump's 1 year anniversary
of ruining the country.
Yeah, officially
ruining the country
is today, on our recorded day.
And credit where credit's due, he's been able to infuriate more people around the world in less time on a high diplomatic level than anybody in U.S. history. I really believe. Seriously, in the news, have you heard any congratulatory happy anniversaries or best wishes on your first year from any world leaders?
No, because the government shut down.
Right. So,
and nobody's here to answer the phone.
now breaking down the fourth wall, yes, this post, Mondays at, mornings at midnight, Sunday nights at midnight, however you look at it. Patriots haven't played yet. Tomorrow, my world shuts down for about 4 hours when the Patriots play. That's usually how it goes. But to celebrate his 1 year, he has shut down the entire country.
Wrong. He didn't shut it down. Those powerless Democrats shut it down.
Well, he has a point because they control the Congress. Well, no, I'm sorry. They control the Senate.
Well, let's look at.
But they control the Supreme Court.
Right. Well, look at it.
But at least as a Democrat in the White House. Oh, wait. So the Democrats don't control any levels of federal government, don't have a majority in any of them, but yet they shut down. Wow.
Right. Well, I mean, if you look at it this way, they wouldn't go along with what the Republicans wanted, so they shut it down.
Well, it was funny, and it might have been Andy Richter who put this off. Basically, they were making headwaves on the DACA thing a week ago when the whole shitholes countries thing came out. And that pretty much, it's funny when you're sitting with a lot of people and you start throwing things like that out, how it kind of drives people away. So they weren't able to make headway. And remember, it was like 2 months ago when they were trying to get the Dreamers Act thing worked out. And Schumer and Pelosi said, hey, we had a great meeting. He's not going to tie wall money into the Dreamers Act. And it looks like we might have a deal. And then 24 hours later, he's like, there's no deal unless there's money for the wall. And he's like, I never said that. Completely undermining. And for a good 24 hours, he was even saying positive things about the meeting with them and all this stuff. But, somebody from his base, like Adelson and the Koch brothers, must have said, hey, you can't do this. So there's a 90%, not Democrat, Republican, 90% of the U.S. want the CHIP program funded now, and it thinks it's ridiculous and inhumane that you are truly starving children. And the same thing with the Dreamers. 90% of Americans think, hey, these children who are brought here, by their parents who've know nothing else but this country, and the percentage that have graduated high school, that are in college, that are paying taxes and stuff like that, it's off the charts to what most other, groups are. And people want those deals. However, that's the hardline thing. And now it's funny because they were saying, okay, we can either do the Dreamers Act or we can do the CHIP program. You have to choose, Democrats. And the Democrats are like, oh, so we either fuck this group of children or we fuck that group of children. And then, like I said, I think on Andy, Richter said on on Twitter, you don't fault Sophie, from Sophie's Choice's mother for choosing one child or the other. She's not the bad guy for making them choose.
I was just going to say, this is a real dopey's choice.
Right. Well, no, it was the fucking Nazis who were the bad guy. It wasn't the mother's fault for choosing one child over the other with a gun to their heads. Mm-hmm. It was, and that's what it is. Again, like you and I talked about before the podcast, the person who has been the most critical of Blotus in the White House, the person who has been most outspoken against the policies and the way he runs things and holding him accountability for things like golfing too much and not working with the other party too much is his own words.
Him from 2013.
In this case, right, you saw it. And it was on Fox and Friends or...
I don't know where it would have appeared on Fox and Friends, but he did tweet that, and probably a series of tweets, that if there was ever a shutdown in the government, the buck stops with the president of the United States.
Oh, he had tweeted that, but the clips that I kept seeing over and over on Twitter, he called into, it was a Fox and Friends, and just went off. And it wasn't an off-the-cuff, I'm just going to make this statement, embed it with 10 other statements. The whole call that he had with them was 100% about the 2013 shutdown. And he said flat out, unequivocally, a good half a dozen times, well, there's a lot of issues going on, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with the president. If there's a shutdown, it's on him. It makes the presidency look bad. It makes the president weak. It makes the president, look like he can't get deals done. I mean, he elaborated to the 12th power about how no matter how you spin it or how you look at it, it's an impotent president who can't make the country run.
You heard it here first. We're holding Donald Trump's words accountable to what?
And then the other great thing is he's now that it is officially shut down, he can't go to Mar-a-Lago. The word is he's having a 2-year-old tantrum at the White House, and he's like, he's a grounded teenager who just lost his Minecraft.
If I was him, I'd blame the Democrats too.
Well, who else is he going to blame?
Not himself.
Right, exactly. So he has to blame the people. And then again, the Democrats don't have a majority, but they also needed I think it was 4 Republicans who didn't go along with the bill that they tried to just railroad through like they did with the tax bill. So, I mean, the margin is slimmer now. They only have a 2-vote margin, but so the 4 Republicans who didn't go with the short-term funding, type thing. They of course, aren't the bad guy. Anyways, happy anniversary.
Yeah, this president is going the right way for a smacked bottom.
Wow, that was a good segue. I think the most interesting thing, and of course we're talking about, I say porn actress. I don't think there's actually any porn stars. I think Amber Lynn, our old friend Amber Lynn, is like the last real porn star. But a porn actress, Stormy Davis, who it's been...
Daniels,
thank you.
Get it right. Stormy Davis is a black actress. Get it. All right, never. How do I know?
How do you know that? Right, exactly. But, it was paid, I think it was $130,000 to not come forward with their affair.
Now, where did he come up with that kind of money?
I don't know. Where would somebody like that come up with off the record, off the books amount of money, which was funneled through his lawyer for shutting somebody up?
And when did this payment take place?
Just weeks before the election.
Ah, I see.
And I believe that's like now they're tracing it back. Like the NRA gave him an awful lot of Russian money. I don't even want to say it, but it's true. Like this week, the FBI is like, hey, Russia seemed to funnel a lot of money to the NRA months before the election that the NRA then turned around and put to, and again, how can you trust the FBI?
Right.
Seriously, the longest institute.
You can't spell fib
without FBI. But here's the best part about the story that, the not the fact that he liked to be spanked, not the fact that he liked to be spanked with a Forbes magazine, but the magazine in question that she alleged she was spanking with. And by alleged, I mean, I believe the porn actress over him 9 days of the week, had him on the cover, which it's kind of a weird way to, spank your own ass. Also had his kids on the cover.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to let that wash over you for a second?
Pretty much. Like the rest of my life. Just sort of let it wash over me. So, I don't know. That's a thing. I guess she's not alone.
No. And there was a lot of payments made right around that time. And these aren't the women who were alleging, and I believe each and every one of them, with like sexual misconduct and sexual wrong. He's the one who brags that you can just grab him. These are a number of affairs that he had that were paid off.
Right. And on that same topic, I saw a segment on the last night's Bill Maher show on HBO, and Michael Wolff, the author of Fire and Fury, was his first guest. And Michael Wolff has alleged or insinuated that his affairs are not quite over yet. Like, they could be even more, and maybe some that are possibly ongoing.
Well, I was going to say how, but we knew the Clinton thing, you know.
Yeah.
But when you're under that much of a microscope, everybody around you has to know.
And let's just stop here. Does it even matter?
No, it doesn't.
It's just more talk for
family values, Joe. Oh, wait.
We know the hypocrisy of the Republican Party, and obviously a lot of hypocrisy on many sides. But in this case, at this point in time, in this point in history, compared to all of the other things that he's been alleged to have done to get elected and to have fucked over many, many people in the past, this is a drop in the bucket. Doesn't mean anything. It fills airtime. It's one more thing. You know, you already have the big fat sandwich, the Dagwood size sandwich of like
for the millennials. See, there was a comic strip.
Blondie, look it up. So Dagwood would eat all of these
husband.
the tall sandwiches, multi-layered. So this is just like another slice of lettuce, you know.
Right.
And by the way, you don't slice lettuce, apparently. I think it's not called a slice of lettuce. You vegetarians out there can correct me on our Facebook page.
I can't. But seriously, no, but you're right. It's like the whole, pussy grabbing thing comes out, and his entire base, nobody cared that, it's locker room talk, or it's this. And even if it happened, all the stuff that had happened, nobody I mean, the fact that, he's been married 3 times, and that he knocked up his third wife while still married to his second wife. I mean, all these things, the whole family value bullshit of it is just that.
I think the Republicans don't care anymore about what these people are going to allege the president to have done in the past with regards to anything.
To anything. Well, so that's the interesting thing. So, circling back to the Russian thing for just a sec, we won't get too deep into this. Bannon was supposed to talk in front of Congress this week, and Mueller kind of put the kibosh on that. And the reason he put the kibosh on it, it's, okay, so Bannon's been ostracized. The base has turned on him. The funding of Breitbart, ousted him from Breitbart. So he went from being this kingmaker to being out on the street.
From prince to pauper.
Truly. And so if anybody's ready to sing like a canary, it's him. However, Mueller knows that the Republicans do not want this Russia investigation at all. And we've already talked about it, ad nauseum. But like with Nunes, when they had that when they had the closed door congressional investigation hearing, and Nunes at midnight sneaks over to the White House with all the information, and that blew up. How many Republicans have to already recuse themselves from the hearing for leaking it and working with the president on this? Not my president. So Mueller doesn't want him to testify in front of Congress until Mueller has his deposition with him, which is going to happen this week. So Mueller basically flat out doesn't trust the Republicans not to run to the White House and say, or go public and say, hey, this is what's happening. This is what's giving his lawyers the heads up to kind of try to discredit it in advance or circumnavigate it or, make it go away. So Mueller is waiting to have his deposition with Bannon before he lets them, because that's basically everything, the Russians, the investigation, it's not like they're not working with the Democrats. They are actively going out of the way to squash it or to discredit it. And it's great that, again, Pelosi, has released that the GPS, something GPS. I'm blanking on the name of the company that put together the dossier on him. And she just did a Julian Assange WikiLeaks absolute dump of the entire transcript without permission.
Right. Was that Pelosi, or I thought it was
Feinstein? Sorry, it was Feinstein who just said, "Here you go." It was under oath. They asked us to make it public. The Republicans are going out and cherry picking things, so here is the whole thing. So, anyways, what is that? What do you got there, Joe?
Excuse me about that. Trump whistle season.
So we'll sum it up. Happy anniversary, Blotus. Yeah. So no more Blotus talk. So let's move on to something happier. Fuck you, Pope.
Yeah, I saw this on the rundown, and what is that again? What is the story?
Okay, so I've not argued, but this Pope has been much more progressive than any Pope in history. Of course, management who was raised Catholic really hates everything associated with the Catholic Church. And it's like, unless you completely reform and you have women preach tomorrow and he abdicates like the popehood to whatever, it's never going to be enough. But I was really upset because a few weeks ago, Cardinal Bernard Lahr died. And he gave not the eulogy, but whatever big speech added. And it turns out, and no, it doesn't turn out, it's been a known fact, it wasn't a hidden fact, during the priest scandal in Boston, which Bernard Lahr was at the center of, and, denied having any knowledge that these dozens and dozens of priests were doing these horrible things and being shuffled around from city to city to kind of cover it up for decades. Instead of being called back to the Vatican and being sent to like the monastery to like pray for the rest of his thing, he was a king, had the most lavish accommodations. I don't know what it's called, in the Vatican, but like whatever the Ritz-Carlton part of the Vatican is, where the higher echelon, most esteemed bishops go to live out their days. He was also, part of like the big decision making, like conclaves and stuff like that. He was truly treated like royalty
in the Vatican.
At the Vatican, truly, and what he does, he's going to burn for eternity. And I was really upset that the Pope, not only allowed him to live out like that, but, it was the Pope before him that gave him these accommodations. But when the new Pope came in and wanted to make these reforms, wanted to start a healing thing, would do that. Okay, that is what it is. But this past week, he was in Chile, and they've had a shocking priest fucking little boys isn't reserved to Boston or the United States. It's a worldwide, epidemic that the Catholic Church, it's the same thing down there. There was a priest who has been convicted, serving out a life sentence, and the bishop who oversaw that, and it was the same kind of thing, has tries to have distanced himself from the scandal. And a number of the victims have come out and said, we went to him and we told him what was happening. One of them claims that like he was in the room once when, I was assaulted, all these things. The Pope in Chile, part of his thing was to go there and give a talk and meet with the people and start the healing process, decides that the victims speaking out against the bishop are slanders and should be ashamed of themselves for saying things about them. Like, just beyond victim shaming, calling them liars, and that they should, pray for forgiveness for the slander that they're saying of the bishop that was in charge of this priest who was fucking these small children. Okay. Again, I was Team Pope during the whole Pope Trump, back and forth. From the outside, from a non-Catholic, from somebody who despises the Catholic Church, he has seemed to have a lot of reform in his time there. But this is still, they're still turning a blind eye. And I hate when you say molesting children. They're fucking children. They're children fuckers, and it's being condoned at the highest level. There. Back to the comedy.
So do we hate the Pope now? Do we like the Pope? Do we don't care? Do we well, just we just call him out?
It's just what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter how many of these great documentaries, these docudrama movies come out, these books, it doesn't matter how many hundreds and hundreds of millions that they've paid out to these victims, especially over the last 15, 20 years. The fact that it still continues.
I blame them for all the church closings.
You think so?
Yeah, I blame them for all the church closing. Those darn accusers.
Right, exactly.
Taking all the money from the hard-earned Catholic Church, and now they can't even afford to keep churches open.
Exactly. Who's really the victim here?
I know,
what you're saying?
exactly.
No, and like I said, never has any pope fully, come out and address this. And we got to make some changes. Maybe we shouldn't make our priests only be around other men and small boys.
That's a whole other theological discussion as to whether or not is it a chicken and the egg kind of thing. It's is it that lifestyle that draws certain people to
it's how
priesthood?
The whole hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, most brink truck jobs are done from the inside. It's easier, but it is. It's you can completely hide in it. Look, we're not going to change.
Hey, look, that's why I admire the people who teach their children about the Bible at home, like that nice family.
You're right, that nice family in Texas. How many kids were there?
13.
Wow. First of all, having 13 kids.
And
Talk about throwing a whale of Tic Tac.
And second of all, what's with that Captain Kangaroo haircut?
Hot. Seriously, somebody fucked that at least 13 times.
Oh my. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other story that we're not going to get into. But yeah, that happened. If you haven't heard about it, wake up, turn on the news.
Or don't.
Yeah, right.
Or don't.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
It's pretty awful.
Or I should say, congratulations. You haven't heard about what we're talking about.
But go ahead.
No, I don't want to go into it. I just want to leave it at that. There was a family, 13 kids, highly religious. Something happened in the news in Texas. Check it out.
Yeah, but it's just weird that they're Christian fundamentalists.
Right. Exactly. How does that happen?
I do not know, but somehow Hillary has something to do with it.
Right.
I already blew the whistle. I'm not backtracking.
I didn't blow the Hillary whistle.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Well, somehow it's her fault.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, So we got the happy anniversary blow this. Mm-hmm. We got the
Where is that loaded gun you were talking about?
The family, we got the Pope, but really, what is the number one upsetting news story this week, Joe?
Tom Brady hurt his hand.
That's right. 3 days ago, we're now on Hand Watch 2008. Can we make a sound effect?
Right.
Finally
tonight, hands.
So Wednesday in practice. And the name was just released today. It was a closely guarded top state secret, Rex Burkhead, running back who hasn't played in 4 weeks, who we love and so excited that he's going to be playing in yesterday's win over the Jaguars, which we'll get to, but ran into Tom Brady's hand. And I will say the march to Brady's douchebaggery, just only continues even more. And look, you never want to say what an injury is, and I get that. It's funny because management was asking why, because he did his press conference, and it was supposed to be on Wednesday, and then they pushed it to Thursday, and then they pushed it to Friday. The league rules mandate he has to have media availability, and I think it's a huge fine, like a huge, huge fine that the player has to pay if he doesn't do it, unless he's not playing and he's not practicing. So he showed up at practice on Thursday for the media availability where people can see them jogging and stretching in place. And he had these big red gloves on. Oh, my God. For those of you outside the New England area, there are two 24-hour-a-day radio stations that are nothing but sports. there are 2 TV stations, and then all the news stations were doing the Zapruder film version. And I'm not kidding, like absolute extreme close-ups of the gloves, like analyzing everything. Oh, he's talking to the backup quarterback Corey, and he's pointing to his hands. Oh, you can see here he's pulling on the gloves this way or that way, and trying to figure out what it was. But because he didn't actually participate in the drills and the practice, he didn't have to speak Thursday. It was closed practice on Friday, which he did participate in, and he had to talk to the media after that, and it was great. Like
Tom, how's your hand?
It's there.
We're not talking about.
We're not talking about that. It's like, are you going to play on Sunday? Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Right.
It's like he was wearing gloves. He was wearing his gloves at the podium inside 80-degree room.
The news.
Tom, why are you wearing your gloves? I've worn it before.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you didn't answer the question.
They believe that he's just not answering directly because they don't want to give any sort of fodder to the opposition. They don't want people to know that Brady's hurt, period.
Well, here's the great thing. You got to love, I mean, as much as I'm a sycophant, as much as like, I forget the exact context, but when we were talking about my fandom and Biff's like, yeah, but you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Agreed. There was no pushback from.
Guilty as charged.
But you got to love the over-the-top. And Bill, we trust, oh, he's fine. He's just doing it so the Jaguars will get overconfident or the Jaguars will start game planning for Brian Hoyer. The Jaguars should probably spend as much time game planning for me playing quarterback on Sunday. But when I say for the last 3 days, whether you turned on the TV, the regular news has been leading off with this, not the 13 kids chained up by their parents for years, not the government shutdown, which is the Democrats' fault. It's all about Tom Brady's hand.
Yeah. Well, it's local news.
But so management was asking, well, why does he even have to talk to him and blah, blah, blah? And why do you have to tell the other teams like your injury reports and have this? And I told her, I said, think about it. Why does the NFL have to have these injury reports? And more than any other sport, are their injury reports scrutinized? And in fact, for the conference championship weeks, the team doesn't issue the injury reports. It comes from the league itself. They have league people embedded with all 4 teams to basically verify if you didn't practice, you have to have it. And the league puts this out. And I was saying it's all verified through the league. And she's like, why? I'm like, gambling.
Yeah, I was going to say Vegas, baby.
That's all it is. And so going into Wednesday's practice before he hurt his hand, the Patriots were a 9.5-point favorite. As it stands right now, they're a 7-point favorite, but some sports books have pulled. If you've already made your bet, you've already made your bets. But as of Wednesday and Thursday, some sports books have just pulled the game and won't allow any more bets until they find out. I mean, maybe come, 2 hours before the game, if he's out on the field practicing, if he's throwing it around. Now, again, it was a closed practice, so you're taking teammates' words for it to reporters that he was throwing the ball with the glove, he was throwing the ball without the glove, that he was throwing it really good, but then it came out like this morning, but he didn't take any snaps from under center and stuff like that. The word was that his finger cut the buckle of Rex Burkhead's helmet, sliced it open, needed 4 to 5 stitches, bled profusely, and is swollen up like a golf ball. It bent back. And you've had hand things and stuff like that. They bleed like motherfuckers.
They do. A lot of mine were internal bleedings, though. So.
On the inside, where it really hurts. That's where the bleeding I'm doing on the inside.
Yeah.
So it is. Even by my standards, it's like, hey, there's other things going on, the Bruins and whatever. Nope, it's been all about this.
You would think they were all like carnival personnel out there with the media, just all Patriots talk all the time. Speaking of which. After this word from our defunct sponsor, we'll give you some more Patriots talk.
year. 6 great issues plus 6 free strategy guides on a hot new game. That's twice the power for still $15. Wow, call now. Get the power.
Breaking Down the Wall. This will be completely outdated by the time it posts, but we're going to talk a little bit about the conference championships. Here's the funniest part about the Patriots in the AFC title game this year. And as I'm talking to Joe, over his right shoulder is the Goodell with the clown nose towel hanging there next to the replica of the Bobby Orr number 4 retired number. The NFL,
both of which were gifts from you.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember saying thank you.
I don't have a place to put them in my house, so I'm gifting them to myself. So now I can enjoy them when I'm here.
What's with all this dog food, by the way? Just using my space.
We haven't got there yet. So here's the irony of ironies. As much as the NFL obviously is not Patriot fans, as much as the league itself is not Patriot fans, as much as the country isn't Patriot fans, the NFL is begging to whatever football god there is upstairs to have the Patriots win this AFC Championship game because of, again, gambling and ratings.
By the way, did you see the accidental tweet?
No.
That the NFL, I think it was the NFL that put it out. Excuse me, people. Got chocolate emergency here. So apparently to promote Super Bowl 52, they had put out a tweet yesterday with an image of the logo for Super Bowl 52. Apparently, they also have these pre-generated images of players in the background. Which teams do you think were represented?
Oh, it has to be the Patriots.
And who are the other darlings?
I'm going to say it has to be the Vikings.
Yes.
Wow.
And then, whoops.
Which caused more of a panic? The accidental Hawaiian inbound missile coming, warning?
That was only contained to one state. So I'll have to say this.
The NFL. Because they made composites of all 4 possibilities.
Yeah. I'll see if I can pull up the image while Jacques talks more about the Pats.
And so, but here's the thing. It's like Jacksonville is a tiny, tiny market. And before this year, we've talked about it. I think it's been 8 or 9 years that the NFL has been going to London to play games. Almost every year, the Jacksonville Jaguars are one of the teams that go over and play. Why, you ask? Thank you, Joe. They get sent over because they have no home attendance. They're like they're the smallest market, or one of the smallest markets. I think technically Green Bay's the smallest market, but we know the fandom there for the last, ever. But the Jacksonville Jaguars do not do well in their market. And when the talk is relocating a team to London, it's always been Jacksonville. It makes the most sense. I mean, it would have to be an East Coast team. It would, with a 3-hour time difference. But Jacksonville has played one home game in London every year, I think, for like 7 or 8 years straight. Now, all of a sudden, because they're having a great run, they've had a great season, they are the new darlings, but the NFL is absolutely dreading a Minnesota Jags Super Bowl because they expect the ratings would be down at least 20 to 25%. Oh, that is great.
It was on Facebook, not Twitter.
It is. It's the Super Bowl 52 logo, and it has, Tom Brady on the left and Case Keenum on the right. Here's the other reason the NFL, the league offices don't want the Jaguars. Joe, the Vikings.
Yes.
And the Eagles.
Yes.
Backup quarterbacks, like not household names under center, a career journeyman, nobodies. Blake Bortles, the quarterback for the Jaguars, who was like the number 3 overall pick a couple of years ago, is like the 31st ranked quarterback in the league. I mean, they've won games. They've won several games like this year. The first round of the playoffs, the wild card game, they won 10-3 at home. I mean, against Buffalo, and their defense is the real deal. Their defense is just really the real deal. And yeah, last week they were up 21-0 to the Steelers in Pittsburgh. And of course, one was a strip sack fumble return for a touchdown. Ben, had a couple more other giveaways out of their 45 points. I mean, so it is impressive. So, they did put 45 points up against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, but that's the outlier. Like most of their games, they're winning like 12-9, like 13-10 and stuff like that. Their quarterback is horrible, and the last thing that you want is two small market teams with nobody's under center.
Now, the upside to that is neither team would have ever won a Super Bowl.
True. And the other reason that the NFL is hoping for the Vikings, the Super Bowls, used to revolve around the same 4 or 5 stadiums, 5 or 6 stadiums. But now the big new thing is, if you build a $1-point-something billion stadium and you don't relocate your team or whatever, the NFL will thank you by awarding you a Super Bowl. So Minnesota was awarded the Super Bowl. Minnesota does not have the infrastructure to handle hosting a Super Bowl. And right now, it's one of those things where, the guys on sports radio in Boston are lamenting. If the Patriots make it, like some of them are, the only hotels you can get are 2 hours away. So it kind of hurts the Super Bowl experience. It's like the Stanley Cup being played in Boston, and the closest hotel you can get is Springfield.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Al Franken's not a senator anymore, so he's not going to be able to, get some of that sweet money into the state to beef up the infrastructure.
But
I suck.
No, it's of all the things that made me sad, that's the thing that I think makes me saddest. Next to Brady's hand.
Right.
But they don't have the hotels. They don't have the space in the room, to handle this. And they're freaking out. So the NFL's like, okay, well, each team only gets just because you have 80,000 season ticket holders, you have to go into a lottery. And people are worried that it's going to be a home game for the Vikings. Yes, they would be the darlings. They would be the underdog. It would be a great story. They would be the first Super Bowl team to host a Super Bowl in their own building. So it would be primarily, Vikings crowd. But the NFL is hoping, well, that's 15,000, 20,000 seats of people who aren't traveling here. That's 20,000 less hotel rooms that they need because they're worried about it. And I think it was a Super Bowl in Dallas with Pittsburgh. Maybe it was Pittsburgh and the Cardinals, where the stadium was done, but it wasn't 100% done, and the NFL had oversold like 500-600 tickets. And the sections that these people's, I'm in section 408, row 12, and you get up to the 4th floor, and there's no section, and it wasn't there. And they had, they had large groups of people in the stadium downstairs, in the tunnels, they had, meeting rooms watching the game, who have spent thousands upon thousands of dollars for seats that didn't exist. They're not going to have that problem, but they are going to have problems like you buy a ticket to the Super Bowl and you're staying 2 hours away and you don't have the whole fan experience. You can't get in a car and Uber back to your hotel in 10 or 15 minutes. You can't walk from, your hotel to wherever the big concerts and the fan experience are. I mean, the NFL is truly, truly hoping that this is a Vikings, because the other reason they want the Patriots is not only Gronk, the name Gronk, the name, Belichick, the name. Even if you hate them, you love to root against them. People will be watching for them to lose. The other big thing is New England doesn't travel. This is the 8th Super Bowl. I mean, this will be the 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years. Granted, I'm not being a cock and arrogant saying that. We will get back there. We will have the dark days upon us again. I know it doesn't seem like that, but at one point we will have a 10-year stretch 20-year stretch without going to the Super Bowl. But as of right now, tomorrow's game is the 7th consecutive AFC title game that the Patriots have played in. Mm-hmm. Yawn. Almost. You know what I mean? It's not like people are dying. It will be sold out. It will be great. People are paying, above market for tickets, but it's not like I got to be there because this is once in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm. I just kept thinking about during your rant that, of course, amidst the Time's Up movement and the women empowerment movement, leave it to the NFL to host a Super Bowl in a stadium with a glass ceiling. I mean, come on!
Somewhere Danny Thomas is looking down, smiling.
Or looking up.
Oh, looking up, yeah. That's the kind of guilt that makes you build children's hospitals.
Well, I mean, it would also be appropriate for Danny Thomas to be looking up at the glass.
I understand what you're doing.
Good.
So let's see. So my prediction for the other thing though, if the Eagles make it, they have a ravenous fan base. Like everybody from Philadelphia.
Right.
Well, and it's not that, that's a drive. That's a day's drive away and stuff like that.
Hoagies on parade.
The city will be overrun with Eagle fans, and truly, they don't want.
Oh, joy!
Yeah, right. Well, there's that.
What a headline that is.
There's that.
City overrun by Eagles fans. That's almost as bad as Hawaii almost got attacked by
right.
missile.
I'll take the missile, please.
Yeah.
But most people are picking the Vikings. I am going to pick the Eagles, and I think I'm picking the Eagles a little bit because I like Chris Long and LeGarrette Blount, who went there from the Patriots last year. But it's a battle of backup quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. The other thing that the NFL is having to consider now, if the Vikings are the home team, how do you even the playing field? Because you always have to travel. Like when you go to the Super Bowl, it's a neutral site. So you have to have the same, so they don't have to travel to do it. So they already have that. Do they get to use their same practice facility, or should they be uprooted to use the college practice facility, across town? Because why should they get all the regular trappings? I mean, the reason Patriots get the home game is they have the best record. It's a reward thing,
Talk about a vote of no confidence with going into this with the Minnesota Vikings. We'll host the Super Bowl in Minnesota. They'll never make it.
Well, it's funny because every year it's like, whether it's in Miami, whether it's in Dallas, whether it's in Phoenix, or the Saints have a great team in their thing. It's like, week 3 or 4 of the team's 3-1 or 4-1. People are like, oh, this will be the first time. And, it's never happened. In 52 Super Bowls, it's never happens.
And who knows? Maybe it still never happened.
Right. So we will find out. Joe.
And we never resolved this. Who do you take in the AFC Championship?
Okay, let's say Brady has to throw with his left hand. So they do. They have a really good defense, but I think it's one of those things where they have a good defense, but they play as bad as our division is with Buffalo, who made it to the playoffs. They're playing against Indianapolis, who was down to their third string quarterback. Our third string quarterback, ends up, being their quarterback this year. Tennessee, who, as you see, wasn't that good. They are and also in Houston's in their division, who lost their quarterback week 5. So they had I think they wound up 12-4, but they had what was ranked like the 31st out of 32 teams, the 31st easiest schedule. Uh-huh. So, I mean,
the Jaguars were talking.
The Jaguars. So, their defense is real. I mean, they beat Pittsburgh twice this year in Pittsburgh. The first time they played Pittsburgh, they had 5 interceptions against Big Ben and had a fumble recovery against them. And then they beat them last weekend. So their defense is, I'm not saying, because they beat a lot of crappy teams. They beat a lot of crappy teams, but they have a good defense. Their quarterback did have a great game last weekend, but I think that's a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then type thing. But I'm going to say Patriots 24, Jaguars 13.
Okay. In the inside, I'm laughing because I can hear Biff yelling at me. We were out of the woods. We were almost done with the Patriots talk, and you brought him back in for another 5 minutes.
I want to say it's 5 minutes, but I will. To appease our non-Patriot fans, we can talk a little bit about the Steelers. The Steelers might be the best team in football on paper.
Can you fill your mouth even more?
The Steelers might be the best team on paper in football. They have, I truly believe, the most talented roster. I think they have, a top 5 quarterback, top 6 quarterback. I think they have the best receiver in at least the AFC. I mean, it's him and Julio Jones are the 2 best receivers in football. I think they have a top 2, top 3 running back. I think they have a bottom 10 coaching staff. And we talked about it during the Patriots game with the no touchdown thing coming out of a 3-minute break without knowing the 2 plays that they were going to run, and Ben throwing the offensive coordinator under the bus, and the coach throwing Ben under the bus. So it turns out, and I mean, I even saw this because they were talking about on sports radio, because I just happened to be up at 1 a.m. last Saturday. Antonio Brown's tweeting out at 1 o'clock in the morning, like 12 hours before a home playoff game. And he's tweeting things like, oh, I forget how he said it, but it was the second time they played the Jaguars, so they were going to get a revenge game this week, and then they get a revenge game next week. They play 2 revenge games back to back. He was already talking about playing the Patriots in the AFC Conference Championship at 1 a.m. before, completely overlooking the Jaguars. And then on the other hand, it comes out in the last few days, both him and Bell missed the run through the Saturday before the game, that they didn't even bother to show up for practice. And it's like, that's one of the things we've talked about it before. It's like, it was a few years ago when a couple stars showed up late for a practice in New England during a snowstorm and were stunned. They were, one of them was Darrelle Revis, gets to the stadium and was met by the door by, one of the assistant coaches and told, no, go home. You're not practicing today. And was just flabbergasted. It doesn't fucking care who you are. And truly, I know it's a bit of the hero worship, and I know he's a lughead, but Tom Brady will be at the will probably be the first person at the stadium tomorrow. Gronk will probably be the second person at the stadium tomorrow. I mean, they will be there, till all hours of the night. And then when they go home, Tom Brady will be wearing his specially Tom Brady, this makes you sleep better pajamas, and will probably be in bed by like 8 o'clock. Or into their, and Hoodie will be in the crypt under the ground that he sleeps in with, whatever, like blood of virgins, like, Right,
I'm just laughing because now I'm yelling at myself. I was out of the sports talk, and then you had to say something. All right, we're running low on time here.
So let's get to my favorite part of the week.
More sports talk. So
what I think happens...
This is the part of the show where we talk about a video game of mine from my Nintendo collection. We're doing... Okay, let's open it up. That didn't sound good. Let's open it up, and I'm not gonna look at. I finally have an excuse not to look at Jacques. He's pulling a game off of one of my video game collection shelves, and now I have to figure out which one it is. I can see that he pulled out a PlayStation 3 game, and I have them alphabetized, and I don't have a large collection, so of course this should be a slam dunk. It is not Grand Theft Auto. It is... I give up. Dark Souls 2. Didn't play it. What a great review. This was a wonderful not waste of time.
Do you want to do another one?
Sure. Now, keep in mind that a lot of those newer games I haven't played. I just sort of obsessively, go to, in my free time, a thrift store and pick up, this game's only $2. And it's a video game, and maybe one day when my legs don't work and I can't leave the basement, I'll have all the free time in the world to play all of these games. Anyways, that's enough about me being paralyzed. Here's a PlayStation 2 game that I'm sure I've played before. It's not Midway Classics. Again, I give up. Onimusha 2.
Now it's time for the random review. I'm going to the NES wall.
What a good idea. What a great idea. Let's not change our format ever again. So he pulled a game off of the NES wall, and it's not Solar Jet Man. I'm going to say Solstice. Solomon's Key, you idiot. Solstice is on the shelf. Solomon's Key, a game that I have reviewed on the podcast before.
We have?
Yes. Oh, the perils, the pitfalls. Pitfall, good game. Pitfall is a great game. Okay, now Jacques going to go. This is his cardio for the week, by the way, going back and forth between the chair and the shelf. All right, now he's pulled out another Nintendo Entertainment System game. It's not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. No, it's not Toobin, not Top Gun. Is it Top Gun 2? Do I have Top Gun 2?
I think it's just Top Gun.
Oh, no, it is. No, it's Top Gun 2, the second mission. Top Gun 2, a game that I'll pretend to have played. But it doesn't matter. It's a game I haven't reviewed. I apologize for wasting everybody's time with this segment. Top Gun, the second mission, is the sequel to the infamous Top Gun game for the Nintendo Entertainment System that was based on the hit movie starring Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer.
Was it based on the sequel? Was there a Top Gun?
I wish there was a Top Secret game that with Val Kilmer. But Top Gun was the game was a kind of a cockpit shooter kind of game, very arcadey. Planes are coming at you, and you're in the cockpit of a F-14 or something, and you're shooting down planes and like little dogfights and stuff. And then the first game, the thing that stumped most players and kids was how to land. There was a landing sequence. You had to land on an aircraft carrier. And it was very difficult because you would get directions on your monitor, more to the left, more to the right, up, down. And if you didn't do it properly as you approach the carrier, your plane would crash. It wouldn't be game over. You would just lose a life, and then you would go on to the next mission. Now, Top Gun's second mission I have not played, but I'm sure it's a lot like the first game with maybe some improvements. So now we're going to go to the Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES Library. Let's see what somebody who
played it thinks of the game.
This is written by, of course, Pat Contry. Check him out on Pat the NES Punk on YouTube. Top Gun, the second mission. He gave it 3.5 stars, same rating he gave Top Gun. Once again, players pilot an F-14 Tomcat fighter jet in 3 different combat missions to take out enemy bogies. Players choose their missile loadout, choosing whether they prefer quantity or range of fire, and then take off from their carrier. Okay.
Does it make you want to play it now?
Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I as I get older, I'm starting to care less and less about video games. But
what are you caring about?
That's the deep philosophical question.
Wait, Joe not caring about video games. When I stop caring about, let's say,
breathing.
Yeah. Then we have an issue. So wrap it up.
Yes.
Sideshow this week.
Oh, is there one?
We want to play. If listen to me, when the Patriots beat the Jacks, maybe we'll do a part 1 of a 2-part sideshow prepping for the Super Bowl.
And if not, we're doing.
I won't be doing
anything
for the next few days.
We'll do a sideshow on crippling depression.
Right. Welcome to Sideshow.
No.
It's a shock. Joe, you missed. Aim higher. Okay, let's leave on a parenting tip. I'm going to start. You got to know yourself, and you got to do a little risk management when you're a parent. Knowing that there's a very slim chance that the Patriots don't win this week, I'm being a good parent and teaching my children risk management by suggesting they don't watch the game anywhere near me. I'm letting them know, yes, I love you so much. You shouldn't be near Papa unless we win by, I don't care. If we win by 4 touchdowns, great. They should win by 4 touchdowns. They'll probably win by a controversial 1 point.
Not according to your prediction. They're only winning by 2.
Right, but you know me. You know me. But I am. I'm sending them away. I'm not watching the game like at home. I would like to watch it, by myself under a tunnel in a hole sometime far away, but I would probably drag you there. But my parenting tip is, if you really think you're going to hit your kids, send them away. Is that really a parenting tip?
No, that's
awful.
That's a tip for the authorities. My parenting tip is, if you have young children and you think that they may be attending college one day, save for said college education. For I have an 18-year-old who is graduating high school this year, and we've applied to his one college of choice. All eggs, one basket.
DeVry?
Yes. And we're also filling out the financial aid applications. And oh, the joys. I mean, everybody should fill out financial aid. You know, there's money out there to be had. By all means, grab for it. But in the meantime, maybe put away some money, you know, when they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So when they turn 18, that money will have amassed to at least one semester of college.
With or without books.
Yeah, right. Oh, no, Mr. Smarty Pants over here wants books. So that's my parenting tip for the week. Save for your children's education. Jacques?
There's just that, and don't forget,